What is success in game development? What does it look like? What does it even mean? I know pretty much all of you out there as indie developers want to be successful, but that success to each and every one of you can be a completely different thing. And how can we really gauge what that success is? What indie game is successful and what is a failure? Is a successful indie game merely a game that makes a lot of money? And if that is the case, what is that amount of money that it needs to make? If we were to take a game like Minecraft as the baseline, pretty much every other video game in the world would be classed as a failure. If you don't want to go so high as that, then you could take a game like Super Meat Boy, which again made an excessive amount of money. And if you class that as monetary success, then other games like The First Tree, Hades, Neon Abyss, all these games would be classed as failures. But could we really call those games failures? Of course we can't, because they were successes for their developers. They were successes in their own right, against their own rules and against their own ideas. So what is indie game success? What does a successful indie game look like? The answer to that entirely depends on what the developers or the developer wants to get out of the game. Now, when I created my first indie game, Glow, I set out a few rules. It was the first game I was ever creating for Steam, the first PC game I ever made, so for me it was the first real video game I was making. I wanted to be able to complete the entire game according to my vision. That was rule number one. I needed to complete that game in 90 days. That was rule number two, and I wanted to learn as much from that process to understand if I wanted to continue in game development and if I had the confidence to build my next game, which could be a lot more aspirational. That was rule number three. And using that as a baseline, Glow was a huge personal success for me. It didn't go on to make loads of money in its initial release, but what it did was it gave me the confidence as an indie game developer. It gave me the confidence that I could create my vision, that I could create it in the timescales I'd set out to, and that I could put the work in behind trying to learn how to publicize a game and learn from those mistakes that I made along the way. But along the journey, even more things happened that I didn't expect. I got to present Glow to thousands of people at one of the biggest expos in the UK, and that exposure then led Intel to invite me to discuss my game and to discuss my learnings at one of their workshops in London. All of these things I never imagined I'd be able to achieve in the first year of game development, let alone the first months, something which really built my confidence. So although if you were to ask me when it first released if Glow was a successful game, financially, I would have said no. But I didn't need it to be a financial success. I had a full day job, a day job I had no intention of leaving. I wanted to learn from this process. I wanted to develop myself as a software engineer and as a game developer. And for those personal reasons, for me, it was a huge success. But the story doesn't end there. You keep on learning, you keep on building, and you can change your definition of what success even for a game you have already released. 2 years later, and I'd moved fully on from Glow into Gym Empire, a game I'm currently developing and putting all those learnings into to try and build as much of a wish list ready for its release. But over those 2 years, I'd learned a lot of things about how to market myself, how to publicize myself and build a community. And I was able to use that information to redefine what I wanted success for Glow to be. And using that information, I was able to then approach a publisher to then get Glow released on the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5 and Nintendo Switch, and make it the financial success I always wanted it to be back in those original days. Now, success for you could be the same as it was for me, or it could be completely different. The important thing is to set out to yourself what your vision of success is. So then when you complete your game and you release it, you can know if you satisfied what you set out to achieve, because that is an immensely important thing to your confidence as a game developer and to what you can put into your next video games. If you just blindly release a video game in the hopes of it making millions, then if it doesn't achieve that, you can feel like you're a failure. But the reality is you might not be. You might have taken so much more from it. And it's so important to set out that road plan of success. So over the months and years, you can know how you're tracking against it, and you can change it as you go along to adjust to the new things you've learned and the way you've developed as a game developer yourself. Now, I'm not saying to completely disregard financial success, because that is a really important tool to becoming a sustained game developer. And we can talk more about why having an eye on that financial success can be a huge tool to your motivation right here in this video.